Hi guys, my name's Jason and I am your watch guy today. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another review. Today I am going back to one of my favourite micro brands. In fact, probably my favourite micro brand. Today I'm reviewing the latest model from RZE. Now one thing that we see a lot of on the watch market is the first micro brand to do such and such. RZE have taken a little bit of a different step. RZE have decided to be the first brand to ever release a titanium supercompressor. Now, it is not the ultimate in diving accessories. However, it is probably the ultimate in tool watches. This one is available right now for pre-order on RZE's website. It is linked in the description. Now, this is not a paid promotion in any sort of way. I have to send this watch on to the next reviewer or back to RZE. I don't get to keep it and they don't pay me for this review. I just really like seeing their watches. One thing Travis does really well is make fantastically gorgeous watches that I kind of just need to have on wrist for a week or two. And he's nice enough to send them to me and let me show them to you guys. So, with that out of the way, let me turn this camera around and let's review this watch.
I tell you what, it is about time that Travis sent me a yellow dial piece from one of his collections. Every time he releases a watch, it's always in yellow dials, and I never get to see the yellow dial. So it's really nice to finally see it in person. It's absolutely fantastic. And the pictures really don't do it justice. The golden yellow with that texture on that dial is just beautiful. But we will get to that a little bit later on. Let's talk about the watch itself. This is the Resolute Supercompressor. Now, often enough, when I have a dual crown watching, I have to say supercompressor style. This, we don't need that style afterwards. This is a genuine titanium supercompressor, and it is the world's first titanium genuine supercompressor. So supercompressor, to be such a watch, would have to gain water resistance as it is submerged. So the further down you go, the more water resistance it takes. This watch in particular has a 100-meter water resistance rating. As you can see, we do have the dual crown system over to the side here. This one is for the rotating inner bezel, and this one is for the time. We do not have a date on this one, and it is not a ghost date movement, so that's really nice to see that they've actually fitted the correct movement. It's funny to say that because you'd think, well, of course they're going to fit the correct movement. Not every brand does, but RZE do like to do things properly, so yeah, I do expect it from them. Now, one strange feature on this is that we don't have a dive time bezel. Now, one thing that Travis and RZE do pride themselves on is listening to their audience. And one thing that the audience wanted was a 12-hour bezel instead of the dive style pieces. So this isn't part of their dive line. This is actually part of the Resolute line, which is their field or sports watch, tool watch line. And quite frankly, they've named this perfectly. This is the do-it-all tool watch. And I don't think I can say it any better than that, to be quite fair. Let me talk to you about the dimensions before we get into the rest of the watch. There's 40 millimeters in diameter, 11.1 millimeters thick, 45.6 millimeters lug to lug, 20 millimeter lugs on this piece. And we do have drilled lugs to make it easier to switch in a different band. You can pick this up, I believe, on a different strap option or this titanium bracelet. Now, the titanium bracelet will add an extra cost, but I'm going to tell you now, it's definitely worth it. I always say get the bracelet with the watch itself and then buy a strap afterwards if you're not wanting to keep it on a strap the entire time. This watch is packed with a 90S5 movement, and it is now priced at £490 or $639. That's a rough translation of those currencies, and obviously that can change day to day, but $639 is where this is priced. And for the first in the world titanium super compressor, genuine super compressor. I don't think it's a bad price, and it does have a nice premium movement in the back of there. The casing is a sand blasted effect, and I really do enjoy these bevels on the side. This little shaping around the casing, it really adds a little dimension to it. Nice curvature as well as some really nice angles. And we have that again in between the two crowns, and it almost acts as a semi-crown guard over to this side. We have lovely angles towards the lugs, and that is synonymous to RZE. They do like a nice angled piece. Fixed bezel, of course. As we move to the case back, we do have one of the plain RZE case backs on this one. Again, usual information around the outer edge and nothing on the center. It is a screw down case back, and it's also fitted with a Vuitton gasket that is listed in their specifications. Now, RZE's titanium is a little bit different to other brands. It is coated in their proprietary ultra hex coating, which makes it much harder than stainless steel pieces, and definitely much harder than the usual titanium piece. In normal English means that the coating will make the scratch resistance last longer and keep your watch looking good for a much longer period of time. The crowns over here are differentiated by their signage. We have the RZE logo on the timing crown and the crosshatch shape over here on the crosshatch etching over here on the bezel timer. As I unscrew this, you can see this is a screw down crown, unidirectional movement here, and it is easy enough to line up to where you need. Click it in and screw it back down. It does have a really nice gear edge to that, makes it much easier to control the bezel itself, control the crown. Also, single pull out here, and the usual hacking movement of the 9 series piece, of the 9 series movement even. This casing is completed with this sapphire crystal. It is a flat piece of sapphire crystal, and it is coated on the inner side with Super AR. Now, I didn't quite look into what the super part of the AR was. I just think it's probably a lot of coatings. Travis will definitely correct me on that once he watches this, but yeah, Super AR on the inside of this. I am glad that it's on the inside, because obviously if you have it on the outer side of the crystal, it is prone to scratching and ruining that nice clean look to the watch itself. Altogether, as mentioned, this watch comes in with 100 meters of water resistance, and with it being a tool watch and not a dive watch, I think that's pretty sufficient. As we move into the dial itself, it is, as you can see, surrounded by the inner rotating bezel. Now, that inner rotating bezel is black and accents that yellow dial very nicely. White markings for the hour markers, and at the 12 o'clock, or what would be the 12 o'clock marking, we have the triangle. Now, these markings are loomed. I will show you that shortly once we get through the rest of this dial itself. The super compressor bezel does sit nice and high above the dial and gives this watch a nice depth of field, a nice feeling of depth in the design. As we move on to the dial itself, you can see that it has a very lovely texture to it. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's almost a sand-like textured dial, sandpaper almost. Very golden yellow, stands out massively on wrist. We have a printed minute track around the outer edge. The indices are applied to the dial and do sit nice and proud above the dial itself, and give a really nice feeling of depth, once again, just like that in a rotating bezel. We do have a different lume on the 12, 3, 6, and 9. I say on those indices, but it's actually on the tips of those indices. You can see where we have a bar across that separates the different coloured looms, which is a really nice effect. Once you do see the lume signature, you will see that. We have a normal sword style handset on this one, very simple, legible, with a black outside edge, which makes it even more legible to this yellow dial, obviously loomed in the center. And we have a lollipop pencil second hand, which fits the dial absolutely perfectly. In fact, the entire handset does. We have the second hand, which reaches to the edge or the tip of that minute track. The minute hand sits slightly below that, and the hour hand sits below the indices. Perfect sizing from RZE. We have the RZE logo printed in black at the 12 o'clock, 100 meters automatic printed above the 6. Let me get these lights out and let me show you this Lume. RZE, don't let me down with Lume. So I hope that has continued into this model. There we go, and it is glowing so nicely. It lights up that light box there. The inner rotating bezel is probably the lowest point of the Lume. The dial is fantastic. The bezel itself isn't bad. It's well applied. I think this will probably be printed actually. It's well printed and it does exactly what it needs to, especially the triangle, which will be the 12 o'clock. That differentiates itself from the rest of that bezel with the green Lume over the pale blue. Now that would make it much easier to actually read it in low light situations. So that's a very smart move from RZE. As well as that, you can see the two different color Lumes that I did point out on the dial at the 12, 3, 6 and 9. That has become a signature of RZE watches, that indice pattern. I can't fault the Lume, guys. I really can't. It's a really nice Lume signature. It's well applied, it's well spread, and it's bright. There's not more you can really ask for a Lume shot. So more than a pass on this one. It's a fantastically Lume piece. Exactly what we expect from our micro brands and exactly what I've come to expect from RZE. Now, as we move past the head of the watch, we move on to this bracelet. It is again a titanium bracelet, and we have this lovely level of taper towards the clasp here. We have solid end links, female end links, and this H-link bracelet. Some really nice angles to the bracelet itself. As well as that, this is a screw pin bracelet. Very premium feeling piece. I mean, I don't know how anyone would pass one of these bracelets up. It's just, yeah, it's brilliant. Really nice sandblasted effect to it. Plenty of levels of micro adjusts. 6 on this one. We have the closeover safety, double pushers, and the milled clasp here. Now, I do believe that the clasp is actually stainless steel. That will just be to give it a nice rigid feel to it. RZE logo on the safety there. Now, I can't fault that bracelet. It is absolutely fantastic. It feels so good on wrist, nice and light, and flows with the rest of the watch itself. So let me get this on wrist, and I can show you how it looks on my 6 1/4 inch wrists. And then we can move into what will be a short mode section. There we go. Fits so nicely to my wrist. Short lug to lug, which makes it really enjoyable to wear. This bracelet, again, articulates very nicely to the wrist and makes this so nice to wear. Yeah, the weight of it too. I've always said that these are perfect everyday pieces. With that Ultra Hex coating, the wearable, and with the functions, they are the perfect everyday tool watch. As said earlier in this video, I don't think I can put it any better way. This is the perfect everyday tool watch, the do-it-all tool watch for me. So what type of moans would I have for this fantastic watch? Well, it is the most expensive that RZE have made. Yes, they have stepped up in price. Now, that usually means that people aren't happy. However, this is the first super compressor titanium piece that anyone has ever made. Anyone. Not microbrand, anything like that. Like, this is the first. And it's absolutely gorgeous. It's got fantastic movements in it. I think it's worth every penny. I really do. One other thing that will come up in a moan section for this piece is the bezel. Now, not everyone is going to be happy that this isn't a dive bezel, but RZE have been very clear in why it's not. And that's because the audience, the community that they treasure so much, have voted that they want this style. They want this indication. They don't want the dive indicator. They wanted a 12-hour indicator. So that's what they've been given. I mean, there's so many watch companies out there that should really listen to their supporters more. And that's one thing that we can really applaud Travis for. So yes, it's very unconventional, but it's done for the right reasons. So we really do have to applaud that, I think. Aside from that, aside from those two very minor moans, I don't think I can really fault this watch much more. One other thing that I have seen branded around is that RZE, as a micro brand, have released so many watches in what's been, I think, 18 months, which is a lot to release, yes, but I think this guy's probably been working for a different company for so long, probably had so many ideas that didn't get past the whiteboard, and now he's got his own brand, his own company, his own philosophy. He's just churning out all these fantastic pieces. But yeah, well done, Travis. Again, fantastic piece. There's a reason that these are probably my favourite micro brands.
Well, there it is, the world's first titanium super compressor. It's not a dive watch, it is definitely a tool watch with that 100 meters of water resistance and lacking the dive bezel. However, it's exactly what the community wanted. So maybe that's a good topic for the comments below. What do you think of that? Tell me, do you think they should have stuck with the dive dynamic that a super compressor usually has? Or are they right to listen to their community? I know which side I side myself with. I think that this watch is absolutely fantastic. And again, I think it's another win for Travis and RZE. Every time that he sends me something, it's just another absolute winner. Thank you to RZE for sending this one in. I really do appreciate being able to see their watches every time they are released. It's probably one of my favourite times of the year when they have a new release. I get to see something new, something spectacular, something that always really impresses me and impresses me slightly more each time that he sends one. So thank you, Travis, again. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, then it's really rude that you've got to this point and not been subscribed. Just go down there and press that subscribe button. Thank you for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.